Hi everyone, my name's Kat, I write books and stuff, and this is my YouTube channel. Okay, so no video last week. That was mainly because I had a giant cold sore on my face. It was like an alien growing out of my face. So here we are, back at it. So what I've got for you this week then is the author origin tag. I was tagged to do this by Michaela Lovett. She has a great channel. I will link her down below. Go and check it out. She does a lot of live streams and stuff like that, so well worth tuning in if you're a writer. The original tag for this was done by Evie Driver. I'll find her video and link that down below as well. So yeah, let's crack on with the tag. Backstory. When and why did you start writing? I don't remember when I specifically started writing. I feel like I've always been writing. So I think I've mentioned this before. There was short story competitions in my school, and I did those. I don't recall particularly why. What I will say is that I have been a reader my entire life. So before I started school I could read, and when I started school I raced through all of the reader books, so the kind of early reader stuff that's supposed to get you going and you're supposed to teach you to read. So I have always been a massive reader, and at some point I started writing, and I don't really remember when. We did a lot of like short creative stuff, writing stuff when I was in primary school, and yeah, so I don't particularly remember when I specifically started writing. The first long format thing that I wrote was it was kind of like a young adult contemporary genre novel. It was terrible. It has been lost to the digital abyss. The world is better for it. Let's move on. Protagonist. What was your first main character like? So my first protagonist was basically myself, and I think that's where most people start, or where a lot of people start. So my first protagonist moved to a new place and didn't know anyone and had to, you know, fit in and things. And yeah, so it was basically, it started out as kind of the story of me moving as an early teen, or a pre-teen I guess these days you would be called. It was the story of me moving house when I was like 11 years old and being uprooted from everything that I'd known and having to start all over again. And I have never been the most outgoing person. I am not an extrovert. I was not an outgoing child. I was very much a wallflower. So yeah, you can kind of imagine what that protagonist was like. Antagonist. What's the worst writing advice or feedback you've ever received? I think the worst piece of writing advice I have ever read or received or been given is, you must write every day. It's good practice to write every day, but that is terrible advice because it's soul destroying if you can't write every day. And I think as a young writer in particular, the fact that I didn't write every day made me feel like I wasn't really a writer. So yeah, I thought that was really bad advice. In terms of confidence breaking or confidence knocking advice or feedback, when I was studying for my degree in literature, I did 2 units that were creative writing units, and the second one was not too bad, it was fine. But the first one, I remember the first exercise that we did in a tutorial group, what I wrote, I got some really good feedback, which was that the characters that I'd created were quite vivid and people really enjoyed them. However, the feedback that I got was, this isn't a story, and actually that is one of the things that I do struggle with. It was correct because there really wasn't anything that happened, but you know, in my mind I have never been very good at short fiction, and this was a short story. And so to me, when I go to short story, especially short story, this was like, I don't know, like less than 2,000 words or something like that. It's not a lot of space to really do anything with. And so I told what to me was the story of two people meeting for the first time or getting to know each other. So to me that was a story, but yeah, my tutor was a bit of an arse about it and said it's not a story, and yeah, that was kind of shit. So thanks for that. Superpower. What part of writing or the writing process is your greatest strength? From some of the feedback that I've previously had, one of the things that I do quite well is little sort of character quirks and touches that make a character seem more real or more vivid. And so that's probably one of the things that I do particularly well, I would guess, from what other people have said. Kryptonite. What part of writing or the writing process do you feel is your weakest? I am very bad at plot, in the sense that I find it really difficult, and always have. This isn't, necessarily something that is new, but I find it very difficult to really achieve a cohesive plot, and that's because I have, if you think of the inside of my head is like a cauldron and somebody's stirring it all the time, and all those ideas are getting mixed together and washed together, and trying to get them to stay still long enough to get them on paper is sometimes a little bit difficult. Yeah. Training montage. What strengths or weaknesses have changed over the years? What have you done to better your craft? One of the main things that I did was I've read a lot of craft books, I've done a lot of self-study, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. And as I say, my biggest weakness has been plot and really pinning down a story and getting the story out of my head. And that has improved. I am a lot better now at outlining. It took me a long time to figure out how to write an outline. And one of these days maybe I will walk you through my process, but I'm figuring this out as I go most of the time anyway. But yeah, so I have worked a lot on trying to really pin down themes and characters, how they link to the story and the story itself and the outline in general. That has been quite an achievement for me, getting to the point where I can actually do an outline. Weapon of choice. What is your weapon of choice for writing? So I currently use Scrivener. Scrivener is a piece of software that allows you to organise your document in chapters or scenes, or break it up however you want. And that's convenient for me because it allows me to work with the structure in my outline. So I don't have to think about it in terms of scenes or chapters. I can think about it in terms of the beats in the outline. And Scrivener allows you to do that. It allows you to move around, and you can storyboard, create index cards within the software, and there's even a section where you can dump research, pictures, links to websites and stuff like that. Before I got into Scrivener, and it's quite a meaty piece of software in the sense that it can take some time to really learn how to use it or how to get the best out of it. Or how to make it work for you. So before I used Scrivener, I used Word, and that was literally just, sort of writing from top to bottom all of those words. And finding my way around inside that document was really difficult. If you want to do that, there are ways around it. So you can create sort of bookmarked headings so that you can move around in your document a bit more easily. But even so, remembering where things were wasn't always easy. With Scrivener, what I can do is I can look at the corkboard layout, which has the index cards on it, and I can find the little index card that has the description of the story beat. And I've even titled all of my chapters, all of the sections within Scrivener, as the beats within the outline, so that I can go back to that specific point in the story and look and check something. And because I have the worst memory, I can barely remember what my characters are called or how I've described them, so I have to be really careful about keeping track of things like that, and at least in the first draft stage. So Scrivener really works for me, and Word really doesn't. In fact, any sort of long document just doesn't work for me. And the thing is, if you then try and sort of break your document up into chapters or whatever, then you still have a similar problem in the sense that you have to go and get the specific document, whereas it's all in one place in Scrivener. Scrivener is great as well because, like I say, it has all that reference stuff that you can put in there. You can export Scrivener in any format you want as well. You can just export it to Word and work on it in Word and copy and paste into Scrivener. It's just a very flexible piece of software, and it's not desperately expensive, especially considering that it is one of the go-to professional pieces of software. If you think about professional software in the art or photography or image world, visual world, you know, you think about the Photoshops and the I can't think, Premiere Pro? What's the other one? There's another one, Final Cut, I think, is one of the video ones, and what have you. And some of this software is ridiculously expensive. I remember back in the day when you had to buy software and you didn't subscribe to it, and you would be spending hundreds of pounds on a single piece of software for one license for that software. These days it is a little bit more accessible in the sense that you can go and you can get a subscription to you know, something like Photoshop or Premiere or whatever, but you're still having to pay that every month, and it's the equivalent in a lot of cases of sort of having a gym membership. In fact, an expensive gym membership in a lot of cases. So Scrivener is very much cheaper and it's incredibly accessible, and yeah, I don't know why anybody wouldn't use it unless obviously they prefer to work in a long document. Trusted sidekick. Every Batman has his Robin. What is your favourite companion when you write? I like to have music when I write. I like to have a cup of water when I write, or a glass of water or whatever. Sometimes I drink coffee. I don't have to have it. I'm not really a snacker. Yeah. Maybe I don't have a sidekick. Maybe this is what's wrong with me. Maybe I need a sidekick in my life. If any of you want to sign up to be my sidekick for me to cuddle while I'm writing, don't sign up. I'm not serious. 0 to hero. When you first began this journey, what level of success did you imagine for yourself? Where are you on your journey? I think every writer at some point gets to a stage where they think they're going to be Stephen King or J.K. Rowling or James Patterson or somebody who is super successful with books and movies and TV series and all that kind of thing. I think every writer at some point gets to the stage where that's what they imagine for themselves or hope for themselves. And I certainly didn't start out with that in mind. I wrote for complete pleasure and fun and didn't really have anything in mind in terms of a future for what I was writing. I didn't have a career plan or didn't imagine it as a career until I was probably in my early 20s, and I found that at that time I was writing a lot of fan fiction, and I was to quote myself, playing with spreadsheets and writing the rest of the time. And I believe I even said at some point to my other half, if I could spend the rest of my life playing with spreadsheets and writing, I would be happy. And that's pretty much where I'm at now. I really like playing with spreadsheets and I really like writing. I do some singing as well now, so that is also incorporated into it. But yeah, you know, the way that I imagine my future is that I will still have a full-time job or maybe a part-time job that will involve playing with spreadsheets because, you know, why not? And the rest of the time I will write and I will publish books and people will buy books and people will read them and really like them, hopefully. Honestly, I really like playing with spreadsheets and I really like writing books. If anybody wants me to play with some spreadsheets for them, then comment down. No, don't sign up for that either. Remember my name. What writers helped you realise your interest or passion for writing? I write what I read. So at the moment I'm reading a lot of thriller and crime and, well, at the moment I'm reading a YA fantasy and a Game of Thrones book, Song of Ice and Fire. But I have, in recent years, I've been reading a lot of thrillers and crime novels and what have you, and I've even read some true crime, and that has an influence because that's what I feel inspired to write, and that's what I'm interested in writing at the moment. If I had to name one writer, one author who had influenced how I feel about writing, or how I feel about the possibility of me writing even part-time to supplement my income or whatever, I would say that writer is Dan Brown. Now, in the next tag that I do, I think it's the next one that I do, I will talk more about Dan Brown. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm not going to tell you right now, I'm not going to tell you. So you'll have to stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe down below and ring the bell for notifications. Haha, I've got you now. Dan Brown has been a big influence on what I feel about writing and about the possibility of being a writer professionally, whether that's on a part-time basis or full-time basis. Marvel versus DC. Comparison is dangerous. How has comparing your author journey to others dismantled or helped your own? I think that some comparison can be quite healthy, in the sense that if you look at somebody and say, I am at the moment where they were X number of years ago, and you might look at a successful author who is on YouTube and say, 3 years ago they just started their channel and now they've got so many subscribers and they've got a following and they can consistently sell books. That's the good kind of comparison, and that's the kind of comparison that motivates you or makes you believe in yourself. But as a general rule, I avoid comparison. Who I am and what I write and what I do is different from everybody else. I might do some of the same things, but at the end of the day, it's me, it's not them. So there'll always be something original and unique about me because I am original and unique. And I would say the same thing to anybody else. I have never really fallen into the trap of, so far anyway, I've never really fallen into the trap of comparing myself to somebody and then feeling really crap about how I feel or about where I am in my journey, at least not when it comes to writing. The obligatory love interest. Looking back on your earliest projects, what genres have you grown to love or hate? I started off writing young adult, and I actually, although I quite enjoy reading young adult, I don't particularly enjoy writing. I did try a few years ago and I found it quite difficult. I used to write a lot of science fiction and fan fiction in the science fiction genre, and that doesn't come particularly easy anymore either. I think it's probably because these are genres that I don't read in very much anymore. And particularly with YA, I kind of feel like I'm so far distant from high school and college and that part of my life now that I would find it really difficult to relate, in the sense that I don't believe it's the same life. When I went to college and school and university and what have you, there was no internet when I was at school, and there were no smartphones when I was in college, and it's a very different, I believe it's a very different experience. So while I might approach YA in the kind of, say, like a fantasy YA or a science fiction YA, so something that is outside of the contemporary or separate from the contemporary sphere, I wouldn't do contemporary YA at the moment because I don't really feel qualified, I suppose. I mean, never say never. You watch me now, I'll probably go and write a blooming YA contemporary novel just because I've said I won't. Arch nemesis. What is your most common excuse or the outside force that prevents you from writing? My biggest excuse, the thing that I battle every day, is time. Obviously, sometimes that's not an excuse. Working a 12-hour shift and then coming home and trying to find time to write is really difficult. then getting to the end of a run of shifts and only having 2 days off and having to fit everything else in my life in the 2 days that I have off is really difficult. Especially if I'm trying to make headway and I'm thinking, okay, well, I wanted to write for however many thousand words this week and I've got to catch up, so I really need to sit down for the entire day and write. So yeah, time is always difficult, has always been difficult, and I think a lot of people will kind of vibe with that, and will feel similarly about it, because, you know, when you're an adult and you work full time and you've got a house to clean and kids to look after. I don't have kids, thank God. I do have a husband and a dog. They're enough. But when you're in that situation and you've got things to do and you've got commitments and what have you, and other things that you need to involve yourself in, or that you want to involve yourself in, finding time is really difficult. And I would say that has both been an excuse and an enemy. I probably use it as an excuse more often than I should. Just saying. Superhero name. Did you consider using a pen name? So pen names then. The name that I'm writing under, the name that of this channel, the name of my website is KJ Middleton. That's because my first name for most people is unpronounceable. I could go by my shortened name, which is Kat, but you know, I feel like, particularly in the thriller genre, Kat Middleton wouldn't be a particularly good author name, which is why I chose KJ Middleton. That's, as far as I'm aware at the moment, or as far as my intentions go at the moment, that's the name that I will write under, and I'm not intending on changing that in the future. Obviously, some people will write under a different pen name if they switch genre. That might end up being the case if I want to do that, but as a general rule, my intention at the moment is that I will write under KJ Middleton. And the main reason why is because y'all couldn't pronounce my full name, and I'm not even going to tell you what it is. So there you go. Avengers Assemble. Tag a few of your favourite people to do this tag on their channel. So if I tag you and you have already done this, I apologise. But I am going to tag Mike Frazee. So his channel is Mike Frazee Writes, Jacqueline Kirk, Savvy, and Untitled for now. So that's 4 people. I will link their channels down below so you can go and check them out, see if they actually do the tag or not. Thanks for joining me. I'm not convinced I did a very good job with this tag, but then, you know, I've been away for a couple of weeks. But yeah, and I don't think there's anything that I need to add except to say thank you very much for watching. As always, I really appreciate the time that you spent on my channel. If you have enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. If you haven't enjoyed this video, that's fine too. Drop a comment down below anyway, say hi, let me know who you are, let me know what you think. Obviously, if you wish to do this tag, then I fully endorse that. Please do this tag and drop a comment down below to let me know that you have. Again, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye! I'm all kind of on my wrong side. Oh, I'm on my wrong side. And it's weird. I'm going to assume that the next thing is about weaknesses, which it is.